The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our 10th and final pajama presentation this week. We're going to start getting out and visiting with people and meeting in offices. And as I've said before, if you want us to come and give any of these presentations or any presentation at all at your office, we're happy to do that. And if you ask nicely, I might even wear my pajamas. With us today, we have a couple of guests. We've got Heather Christensen from Geneva. How are you, Heather?
Doing well. How are you doing, Jason?
Doing really well. And also Mike Blackham from Geneva Pipe and Precast. How are you, Mike?
Doing good, thank you, Jason. How about yourself?
Doing very well. Randy from Old Castle usually joins us, but he is out inspecting a project down in southern Utah today, and so he's in and out of cell coverage. He said he might try to call in and harass us a little bit, but we'll see how that works. If we hear from him, we'll let him jump on and say hello. We'll go through and then we'll do some kind of housekeeping things and some reminders on how these presentations work. So thanks again for everybody for joining us. I am Jason Allen. I am the director of Mountain States Concrete Pipe Association. I am a licensed engineer, got my degree from the University of Utah. Been in the engineering field for about 18 years. I started out surveying, did land development, worked in the public sector as the Morgan County engineer. I got back into consulting, and now I do marketing engineering for the precast industry in Utah and Idaho. So as I mentioned before, this is put on by the Mountain States Concrete Pipe Association. Our member companies are Geneva Pipe and Precast and also Old Castle Infrastructure. We want to recognize Ash Grove and Wholesome, who are our cement suppliers, who also sit on our advisory committee and board of directors. So we want to thank them very much. As I mentioned, this is the 10th and final of our pajama presentations. We've been doing these since late March, and we've had quite a few people who have attended almost every single one of them. I think 8 or 9, and 1 or 2 maybe have attended 10. So that's really good. As always, I make these available on our YouTube channel, so you can go to YouTube, just look up Mountain States Concrete Pipe Association. I've started sending that link out with the PDH certificate that I send out each week. So if you want to watch this later, you're more than welcome to do it on our YouTube channel. Today has a lot of information that you may want to go back and reference and look at. So that would be a good one that you may want to bookmark that page and go back. So our purposes for these are to build some technical skill and help you in your job, also provide you a little bit of a break during the day, and hopefully give you a little bit of entertainment and enjoyment in your day. And also it helps me to be the center of attention as always. So today is my last and final pajama, and as part, I've been saving this the whole time. This is one of my favorite pajamas. Just to recap some of the ones we've had, we had the rainbow unicorn, we had a flying squirrel, an elephant with an interesting trunk location. We had, I've done some with my Lakers baseball team. I had the Superman, Batman, Stormtrooper, Santa Claus onesie. We've had a lot of fun ones. Randy even shared his goat onesie with us. But this one is my absolute favorite because I am a diehard U of U fan. These are my Utah pajamas. I wear these probably more often than any other pajamas because I love the Utes. Go University of Utah. All right. Before we jump into the meat of this presentation, I just wanted to review. We did a presentation about, it was right at the beginning. I think it was like our 3rd or 4th presentation. It was about presentation basics and kind of some tips for having good presentations. And based on the feedback we got from that, we heard that a handful of people wanted to delve into PowerPoint a little bit more to see what some of the benefits are. So I'm going to launch a poll right now. And as we go through this, I'm going to have a handful of polls as we go through. And I have a video that if we have time, I want to show. But I am going to be moving through a lot of this really quickly. So if you want any additional information, feel free to call me or email me. I will put my contact information up at the end. I do watch to see who's being attentive, who's taking part in the polls, who's doing those things. So if you're able to vote and take a poll, you may score high on the attentive score, and the person who has the highest attentive score is going to win a $25 gift certificate to Amazon. So just a couple of housekeeping things. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to type them in the question bar, and I will be answering those typically at the end of the presentation. If you have comments or concerns, you can put those in the question, or you can put those in the chat. chat bar. And when I launch a poll, some computers, when you have it in full screen mode, if you're watching this in full screen, it will not allow you to vote. So you may want to exit out of full screen mode when I launch the poll so that you could take part and vote in those. So those are just a few housekeeping items, and we'll jump right into our first poll. All right. I'm going to ask a couple of questions here, actually, and then I'll probably break it up throughout as we get going. But my first question is, have you ever used Prezi? Prezi is a presentation software that I've seen some people use. And I was just wondering who's ever used it or seen it used. Okay, looks like we've almost got everybody. I'm going to leave it open for about 5 more seconds, so quickly vote if you can. 4, 3, 2, and 1. We'll go ahead and close that, and I will share that. So it looks like 1 or 2 have said yes, I have used Prezi. That's good. Prezi is a really cool presentation software. It lets you navigate and move. It's got these really cool smooth transitions. About 45% of you said no, but I've seen it used before. I don't know if you feel like it's pretty cool. Like I did when I saw that, I thought, wow, that's a really dynamic, cool presentation. And then 50% of you said no, and I have no idea what that is. Well, the reason I bring up Prezi is because a lot of people say, oh, I really like PowerPoint, but you know, Prezi's so cool. I wish I could do that, but Prezi costs money. I've got this PowerPoint suite. You know, I have Microsoft 365. I may as well just use PowerPoint. What we're going to show you today is there are some really powerful tools inside of PowerPoint that actually make your presentations look and feel a lot like a Prezi presentation. So if you have seen it and you've been like, man, I'd love to learn how to do that, we're going to go through some things today that will help you to be able to have those things in PowerPoint as well. Okay, and while we're doing a poll, why don't I do a second one here? We'll just pump 2 of these out right now. Let's see here. Let's do this one right there. Have you ever used animations for text or objects in your presentations? Okay, it looks like most of you have voted. I'll go ahead and close this and share the results. It looks like a majority of you are using animations. That's good. Animations can be very powerful. We are going to talk about animations today. We're going to discuss that a little bit and how we can get a little bit more out of our animations and some other things we can do to make sure that we're using them well. All right. Looks like one of you said no, and I have no idea what that is. We will talk about it today, so that's good. That is very good. Okay. I'm going to hide that. We're going to go back to this presentation. So just a couple of high-level ideas on PowerPoint etiquette, some things to keep in mind, and this is just a really quick overview of some of the points I made in the presentation that we gave right at the beginning of these pajama presentation series, okay? The first thing is you want to tell a story, okay? The PowerPoint, the idea of a presentation is to tell a story. The most we discussed this a few weeks ago when we talked about how to reach a non-technical audience, the importance of telling a story. All right, we've all heard this line, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? You'll see that all over in different places. This is an advertisement from years and years ago that come in and take one look. You don't want to order from a catalog. You want to see it in person, right? You don't want to read about it. You want to see it, okay? And then this is one that I saw one time. A blank is worth 1.8 million words per minute. This was a graphic that I found that I thought was really interesting. A video is worth 1.8 words per minute. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And a video shoots at 30 frames per second. That's 30,000 words per second. And in a 60-second video, that is 1.8 million words per minute. So think about that. If you're able to tell a story, if you're not able to really effectively tell the story and the picture isn't doing it justice, consider incorporating a video into there. And we will talk about putting in videos and embedding videos today. So that was one of the questions we got a lot at the beginning or at our previous presentation was, how do you embed videos? I have a video that I made that will show you and walk you through how to do that. So I will be sharing that with you today. All right. Okay, next we talked about the 5-5-5 rule. Some of you might remember the 5-5-5 rule. The 5-5-5 rule, sometimes I prefer I use 5-5-5 rule as a maximum. I try to stick more to like a 3-3-3 or a 4-4-4, but a 5-5-5 rule is this. Okay, the idea is to avoid losing your audience to lengthy slides you want to have no more than 5 bullet points per slide, no more than 5 words per bullet point, and no more than 5 text slides in a row without like a picture or a video or some type of break. Okay. Me personally, I prefer to look at more of like a 3-3-3 because I like to have really short, and I love to talk. For those of you that know me, I can talk. So a couple of words on the screen is all I need to go ahead and tell my story. All right. One other thing that we're going to talk about today, and you know, lose the agenda. A lot of people will have an agenda and say, this is what we're going to cover. I'm going to show you some really cool tips and tools today that will help you throw that agenda out and help you be a little bit more dynamic and work on your feet with some things. All right. And remember, when we're putting together a presentation, we want to make sure we have a good, solid design, and it's not just decoration. Make sure that everything that you're adding to your PowerPoint is there for a purpose. We're not trying to just decorate and flower it and make it look pretty. We want everything to be there for a purpose. Okay. And the fourth one here, keep it professional. Okay. If we're using animations, let's choose animations that are tasteful and not flashy. Right? If we're using transitions, let's make sure that we're not distracting from the message. Okay, so just try to keep it professional. And remember, the most important thing is that your audience needs are your top priority. Okay, those are your top priority. I'm going to share an example with you now. And this is an example that a friend of mine who was the West Region engineer for the American Concrete Pipe Association, he was covering all the about 10 Western states. And he gave this presentation, and I'm going to show you how he used to give it, and then I'm going to show you how he does it now. Okay, so this is the example. What he used to do is he would talk about this challenge. This was actually a case study of the first box culvert installed in Wyoming. This was back in the early 90s. Okay, and this was before digital cameras were a thing. And so we actually don't have any photos of the construction. We know where it was, but we don't have photos of the construction. But so this is how he used to do this to try to tell that story of this box culvert. Okay, he would talk about the challenge of this. This was in Dubois, Wyoming. It was a bridge replacement. The highway detour wouldn't be a possibility. It needed to be built on site. Okay, and they only had a 24-hour window for replacement. Okay, it was 168 feet, and it was buried 24 feet deep. So the flow line, I think, was something like 32 or 33 feet below the road. So this is a very deep box. They couldn't do cast in place. They had to precast it. They had to bring it in, and they only had a 24-hour window. So their solution was to do 8x8 double cell boxes with 24 feet of cover, and they used 28 pieces at 40,000 pounds each. So they started the detour on Thursday afternoon. They removed the structure Thursday night. They unloaded pieces on Friday morning. They achieved their grade. They boxed. They set it. Okay, as you can tell, it's a lot of text. Okay, so that's how he used to present it. Okay, good information, and it tells a story. That's fine, right? But now as he learned to use PowerPoint a little bit more, this is what he does now. This is how he tells this story. So now he talks about accelerated precast construction. That this was a key to the success, and then he discusses what accelerated precast construction is and how it works. Now, this is a satellite view of where this box is. So I'm going to show you here. This is the river, okay, that they were trying to bridge. And it was on US 26 and 287. It was that bridge replacement. Now, there was no detour option. If you look at this, as you look and see, excuse me, with that blue highlight, that wasn't the river. That was actually Highway 26. I apologize. But if you look at that, just outside there of town, there's really no way to go around this. There's no detour that is even viable. Okay, it's so huge, like it's so far out of the way that if you needed to go, there's really no option for this, right? We'd be talking hundreds of miles to detour around this thing. So they really had no option there, and because there was no detour option, they wanted this done in 24 hours. And as I mentioned before, the invert was 33 feet below the pavement. So here's the solution, and this is how my friend shares this presentation now, where he uses animations and is really effective at it. Okay. So he talks about the 8x8 double cell boxes and 28 pieces. And then he shows on this timeline. And I always thought this was really cool how he does this, because it tells the story a lot better than the text. So on Thursday afternoon, they started their temporary detour on site. By Thursday evening, they came in and removed the existing structure. Okay. By Friday morning, they unloaded 15 boxes. They were delivered and unloaded by Friday morning so they could get started. On Friday, they were able to achieve their grade with their boxes set and joint sealed, backfill placed, compacted, and pavement stripes under the road area. And by 5 p.m. Friday night, the roadway was open to traffic again. Okay. After that, then they brought in the 13 final boxes that were outside of the roadway. They set those and they backfilled them. Now, the way he tells that story is really dynamic, exciting. You're really focused on what's going on. And it's a big contrast to what I show up here in this top right-hand corner there of how he told it before. So if you can master these skills of using animations and images and graphics, you can really tell a story a lot better, especially for those that you may say, I have a weakness in telling story. That's not one of my strengths. And if it's not, then you can use some of these cool tools in PowerPoint so that we can get there. All right. So this is kind of our high level view of what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. There's 6 different items that I wanted to discuss with you. So we're going to discuss layout and design, how to use media in our presentations, animations and transitions, 2 different things and need to be used differently. And then we're going to talk about sections and we're going to talk about Zoom. Okay. And that's not the software Zoom. That's the Zoom function within PowerPoint and how you can use that. Okay. All right, so let's jump into layout and design first. Okay, layout and design, the first thing you want to do is make sure you're staying consistent and you want to play to your strengths as the presenter. Okay, put yourself in the audience's shoes and say, what would I want to see? What would interest me? How would I want to be presented to? Because depending on the material and depending on what you're talking about, you may have different style of layout and presentation, all right? But we just want to make sure that we're keeping it professional all the time. Okay, that's the key. So not too flashy, not too over the top. Keep it professional, but play to the strength so that you can tell the story very well. All right. So here's an example. Okay, this is our first example. This is just text. Okay, and some people like to use this because it's easy, it's quick. If I'm putting something together that I need it really fast, this is the best option. Okay, you're just talking about an outline with bullets, right? It keeps it organized, and then what I always like to say is if you're going to do text, animate it one at a time versus all at once. Okay, don't come in and just have it all show up on the screen because everybody tends to read ahead. We don't want them reading ahead. We want them really focused on what we're talking about and what our message is. Now, admittedly, this type of layout, while it can be effective for transmitting information and getting that in there, right, kind of blah. There's not much to it. It's just whatever. Kind of boring, right? It's not that dynamic. It's not that exciting and entertaining, right? And so you really have to say, is this what the audience wants to see? Is this what I need to do? So those are some ideas there on, well, that's one option. It's not the best option, okay? The second one is using text and images together on the same slide. This can be very useful when you want to highlight a point. Right? So you bring in a picture to show that point, okay? However, the problem is it can get very cluttered, right? Your slides, you already look at this and you say, wow, that's a lot going on in that one slide there, okay? We pointed this out ad nauseum at our last presentation when we talked about effective presentation techniques. Slides are free. PowerPoint doesn't charge you per slide. So if you want to put in a slide, add it, or you want to put in 2 pictures, put in 2 pictures on 2 different slides. It's fine. They're not charging you by the slide. You can have as many slides as you want. In this PowerPoint presentation, I have 71 different slides. That's a lot of slides, right? But I use a lot of pictures, and some of them are going to be really quick, okay? They're free. We can put in as many as we want. Rule of thumb with slides, 1 minute per slide is a good rule of thumb, unless you have really short videos that you're throwing in, or you're going to work really fast through a series of pictures, just like one after the other. So, but a good rule of thumb, if you have a 60-minute presentation, 60 slides is a good rule of thumb. 45-minute presentation, 45 slides. So keep that in mind. All right. The third example is just an image only with maybe a title on it, or maybe no title at all. Maybe you're just showing a picture and you want to talk about that picture. Okay. This is one of my favorite ways to do it. I just like showing a picture and just talking about that picture and discussing it. Now, This is more like a keynote address type thing, where you've seen like keynote speakers get up and just show a picture, and they're really kind of artsy fartsy pictures, and I love that kind of stuff. I'm really into that, so I do that a lot. And then so this is one option that you can do, and I'm going to tell you where you can get some really cool pictures for free that don't have copyright restrictions on them. So it's you can do this in your own presentations and use these pictures. But again, if you're going to do a picture, why not make it big and just have a little title on it and talk about the picture? Now, here's a pro tip for you when it comes to graphic design. White text with a black outline will show up on any color background. It's easy to read on any color background. And you're looking at this picture and you're saying, okay, well, that's black and white background. Okay, yeah, you can see it on the white, you can see it on the black. Just to prove my point, here's one with multicolors, right? You can still read that pretty well. Okay, if you were to just do a black font color there, it would get lost. If you were to do a white, it would get washed out in some point. So you can do a white text with a black text outline. It will show up on any picture. Okay, sometimes you may have to bold the font so that it will stand out and you'll be able to see it, but that's a really cool tip there. White text, black outline. So your question might be, how do we get a text outline? Great question. I read your mind and I knew you would ask that. So here is how you would do that. If you go up, I just usually type in the search bar up at the top of PowerPoint. There's a search bar. I just type in text outline and it has a drop down menu. You go to text outline and you come down and you can choose which color. You can choose the weight. I just use the standard, thin weight that they have. It doesn't have to be really thick to get it to stand out, but that's how you get the text outline on those pictures, is you just type in text outline and you go from there. For anybody who watched my millennial presentation a few weeks ago, I did it with APWA. I did it here in April. Did it in APWA in May, but I use this technique of just a picture and a little bit of text a lot. Like I really like that the way that works and the way it flows. So these are just some of the slides that I had, and just kind of an animated thing coming in, right? These are just some really artsy pictures. They kind of go with what I'm talking about on there, right? I just have picture after picture. The font that I used on this, full disclosure, I tried the text outline, and because this font is a thin, kind of handwritten Sharpie looking font, it doesn't show up as well. So you got to really be careful on the fonts that you select. So that's why I kept it black. But you can see it kind of gets washed out in some places there. But yeah, these are just some pictures that I found online that I tend to use in that presentation. And I'll go over where you can get those pictures in a minute here. So Slide Master, when you're doing your layout and your design, this is a really, really effective tool. It's awesome. Okay, when you typically add a slide in, and you add a new slide every time, if you have animations, you have to add the same animations, and sometimes you have to modify text sizes and things. A Slide Master allows you to simplify and speed up that process. You choose in that Slide Master your fonts, your text size, your colors, you add in animations and backgrounds, and then everything is consistent. All right, so this is what it looks like when you add a slide in, right? You add a slide in, it says click to add title, and it has this default text style. It has a default font and size and everything, and you may say, man, that font comes in so small. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I want it to be bigger. Well, instead of going through every single slide and changing your font size from 22 to maybe 28, you can do that in the Slide Master. Okay. So what you would do is you go to your View menu and you pull up the Slide Master menu and you click on Slide Master. And when you do that, this screen shows up. Okay, and then you can go in and you can change in that Slide Master, and then every type of slide that you're going to have, whether it's how the images show up, where they show up on the screen, where the font is, what the different levels are. You've got your first level, second, third, fourth, even down to your fifth levels of bullet points. Again, if you're using my 5-5-5 rule, you probably won't get past the second level. Maybe on rare occasions you'll see a third level bullet, but I rarely see that. But as you can see, the font gets smaller every time. I like to have them larger and consistent. I like my animations to come in and either appear or a fade, and then I like them to grayscale after I do them. I set all of that up in my Slide Master. It's really, really cool. And then you can close your Slide Master view, and then every time you add a slide after that, boom, there it is. It's all consistent and the same. It looks really professional because everything's the same. If you're going through slide by slide, you don't have to worry about forgetting to change the font size or the font style or the animation on one of the slides. You know it's going to be the same every single time. It's a really, really cool tool when you're doing layout and design. Okay, so that's our layout and design section there. Okay, that we did there. Let's jump into using media. I didn't know how long it would take to get through some of these things, but I think we've got time to show you the video that I made. It's about 4 minutes long, but I'm going to show it to you in just a minute when we get into media, because there were a lot of questions about media and using media when we gave our last presentation. Okay, I always recommend to embed and not to link, for the simple fact that when you link media, there's two ways to link the media. You either link them to your local drive, or you link to a website or something online, so like on the cloud or something. Okay, there's two issues with that. Number one, if you're not using your own power or your own computer, and you just copy the PowerPoint presentation, all those links that are to your local media will be severed. Okay. And the other issue with linking to something on like YouTube or online is if you don't have a good internet connection, or if you don't have internet at all, then you don't get that. You can't watch your videos, or you can't listen to your sounds or see your images. Okay, so that's why I always say embed. Do not link to things. Always embed them. Now, this creates very large files, so be prepared for that. Okay, because every time, if you have a 25 megabyte video that you want to show, okay, and your PowerPoint is 2 megabytes, when you add that 25 megabyte video in, all of a sudden now your PowerPoint is 27 megabytes, right? Well, some of the videos I use are 400 or 500 megabytes. I have some presentations that are 2 gigs of memory, all right, or 2 gigs inside. I mean, they're huge because I have like 30 or 40 installation videos in one presentation, right? It's a 2-hour presentation that just shows video after video how to install. That's a big presentation, and that's why I always recommend to use your own computer where possible, because depending on the type of the version of PowerPoint they're using, you may be using Office 365. They may have like a PowerPoint, 2015 or 2017 or something that maybe doesn't work. It's not the same. So use your own computer where possible, and always, always, always test before you present. If you're not able to use your own computer, if you don't have the connection, maybe you left your HDMI cable at home or your dongle, you forgot that, and you do have to use those, so you put it on a jump drive, go through and test before. Get there 15, 20 minutes early, run through, make sure all of your media plays, and if it doesn't, then you can make that adjustment. Instead of making it on the fly, you can make it before you present, okay? So keep that in mind. Those are really important things. So let's talk images first, because these are really simple and easy, right? There's 2 options here. You can copy and paste. So if you find an image you like online, you can right click, copy, bring it into PowerPoint and paste it. Once you paste it in there, it's embedded in, okay? It's already embedded in there, so you don't have to worry about it, all right? The other one is drag and drop. If you have a file on maybe your desktop or in a folder location, you just click that, you drag it and drop it right into PowerPoint, and it will, and then you adjust the size however you want, where you want it to fit. You could just move it around. It's really easy. So dragging and dropping and copy and paste, both of those will automatically embed images into your file. There's other ways that you could do it, like you can go into insert, you can go to the insert menu. It's similar to like what you do in MicroStation and CAD. If you need to add an image in, you just go to insert, and then you go to image from file, and then you add it in. So I mean, that's pretty common, typical stuff. But in PowerPoint, you are able to just copy and paste or drag and drop, and it will automatically embed your media or your images there. One thing that I always recommend is that if you have a big image, you want to go, just focus on a small area. You can always crop in PowerPoint by right-clicking on the image, and then it'll come up with a menu of what you can do, and you just click on crop, and then you just choose and shrink the image down to where you need it to be. It's pretty easy, pretty cool stuff with images there, okay? Now, some web-based image resources. You could always do a Google image search for something you like, okay? But with some of those, you're going to have copyright issues, and some of those, they have watermarks on them. So you can't, you might find one that you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then all of a sudden you download it, and it's got this big watermark across the front of it that says copyright use only, right? And that's kind of a bummer. So one thing you can do in your Google image search is you can actually go to advanced search settings, and you can choose free usage on there, so it's like no copyright restrictions, and then it'll only show you images that you don't need to pay for to get the copyright, so they won't have that watermark, and they'll be easy and free to use. One other website that I like to use is called Unsplash, unsplash.com. Great website. What it is it's just this collective of really talented photographers that take pictures and put their pictures on this website. They submit them, and then they organize them and categorize them. This is what it looks like when you get onto Unsplash. If you just go in, you can search for whatever you have there. I just typed in cool pictures, and these were the first 3 that came up. And what it does is when you go, it gives you an option to download these pictures, and then it tells you who the artist is, and it gives you the option that if you really like it, you can either share it on your Facebook and say, hey, look at this cool picture I found, or on any of your social media platforms, or it even gives you an option that you could donate to the artist if you think it's really cool and you think, oh man, this is a really cool picture. If I were to buy this at the store, it would cost me $50 to buy this. I'm going to send them $5 for their effort. I think that's cool. So this is a really cool little kind of collective of photographers that have some really awesome pictures. All the pictures that I showed in that millennial kind of section that I went through really fast, all of those came from Unsplash. So it's a really, really cool resource, and I always suggest that. All right. Other things that you can do are if you need like a screenshot of your screen, right? There's 2 different options that I use. The first one that's actually really, really easy is you just press on your keyboard, you have a print screen button. When you press print screen, it copies your entire screen to the clipboard, okay? So once you press print screen, your entire screen on your monitor is on your clipboard now. And then you just copy and paste it into a PowerPoint. And then you can crop it. You can crop that down to whatever area you need it. So what's interesting is if you have like a menu open, so some of these shots that I got on PowerPoint today where I'm showing you like where you go through and click on a menu, it only works in the print screen tool, because the next tool, which is the snipping tool, once you click out of that menu on PowerPoint, it closes the menu. So if you try to capture it with a snipping tool, it won't work because it closes your menu. So you have to use the print screen and then shrink it down. So some of those I've already shown, and a couple more I'm going to show. You have to use the print screen, copy and paste. Snipping tool is kind of the same thing. This is what it looks like when you snip. I know this is getting like super meta because you've got now like the shot and then your snipping tool inside that shot. So I've got a few of these that might trip you out if you're not prepared. So just wanted to warn you there. So with this snipping tool, you just click on new, and then you can choose, you can highlight a window, and then it snips that window, and you can either save it out as an image, or it gives you the option to just copy it to the clipboard, and then you can paste it into PowerPoint. As I mentioned before, when you copy and paste, it embeds the image for you. So those are 2 options if you need to get something on your screen. And snipping tool is a really cool thing. I haven't tried the snip and sketch yet, but every time it yells at me and says that I need to start trying it because they're going to phase out the snipping tool. The way that you find snipping is if you just go down into the easiest way is if you go down into your search bar on your Windows menu and you just type in snip, it'll come right up. So, but don't do a Google search on snip. There's other things that might come up too. So just be careful there. All right. And then you just crop it as needed, and you select the image, right click on crop, and you're good to go. All right. So for this video demonstration, when you're doing this video and you want to show a video, you're going to need a video file. If you want to download an image from YouTube, I suggest that you have a program to download from YouTube. And look at this, 3rd level bullet point, boom. I told you it doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does. I use WinX YouTube Downloader. That's the program that I use. And then you'll also just need PowerPoint to drag and drop it into there. Okay, this is what WinX YouTube Downloader looks like. This is the video, or this is the software that I use to do that. And then that's what it looks like. I'm going to show you the video here. It looks like we've got enough time. So I'm going to show you this video. And like I said, it's about 4 minutes long, but it walks you through. So this is a really good way to show you how to get your videos. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful so that everybody could see how to, how you do that. And, that's, I'm just hoping that we can, that was helpful and you could try it on your own. That WinX YouTube downloader is a free program. Keep that in mind. So you can just download it online. Just Google search WinX YouTube downloader. Audio. Oh, excuse me here. Let's get into here. All right, there we go. Audio files, pretty much the same as video. Just drag and drop and check the animation so that it's either start on click or with or after your previous. So kind of the same thing as I described in the video file there too. Okay. All right. So that's using media. All right. We talked a little bit about animations earlier. It sounds like some of you are using animations, but let's talk about animations real quickly. These are very useful for emphasis, right? But if you use them too much or too often or differently than they should, they can be a little bit distracting, all right? Now, some animations, you can even use them as a good illusion for drawing or writing. There's some really cool, powerful tools you can use. However, if you do it too much, it's going to be a little much for you, all right? So this is that animations pane up at the top, all right? I always like the idea of keeping it simple, silly, because none of you are stupid. Keep it simple, silly. All right. My two favorite, my number one favorite is fade, and appear is also a good one too. Okay. So these ones right here that I'm showing you are appear. They just show up. All right. Appear and fade are both clean, simple. They're quick. They're non-distracting. My suggestion is choose an animation and stick to it. That's where we get into that slide master idea, right? So if you have the slide master, you can do, you can set which animation you want, and then you can just run with it. Okay. So, be consistent. If you have one that fades in and then one that swipes right and then one that flies in and you have all of these different options, it just gets so cluttered and overwhelming. All right. So keep that in mind. Down at the bottom here, you see the first two, appear and fade. Then there's fly in, there's float in, there's split. You can make them bounce. You can actually draw a custom path that they can follow. So you can get really crazy with this stuff. And I mean, depending on the setting, depending on who you're presenting to, you want to be really careful with that. All right. So, one option that you can do that's really cool with these animations is if you look up here on the top, right up here where it says add animation, right there. Okay. You click on that add animation and it gives you all the different options for entrance. But one thing that's really cool that a lot of people don't know about is that you can apply multiple animations to one object, whether it's text, a picture, or whatever. Okay, so I just had, this is the fade in. So if you notice, that fades in, that image, right? And then what you can do is you can go down here to, you can place emphasis on it, or what I like to do is you can go down to exit. Down at the bottom of the screen there, you see there's a bunch of different options. Basically, all the entrance options, you can also exit. So if you were to choose, say, fade in, then it fades in. And then if you choose fade out, it would look something like this. So after you're done with that animation, after it comes in, if you want it to go away, you can either choose within the animation pane to hide after animation, or you can add an animation to the same object. So multiple animations per object, and it'll fade in, and then you can get it to fade right back out. It's kind of a cool tool. It's really helpful if you don't want your screen to get really cluttered and you want to do everything on like one canvas. Again, PowerPoint slides are free, so there's options. There's ways you can get them to go. You can just copy and paste the slide and do it that way, or you can just have one object come in and go out, another object go in and come out. One funny story I really like this. I was working with Heather when she had applied for her job, and we went and grabbed some. We went and met at a restaurant, and I told her I would give her some pointers on her presentation that she was giving as part of her interview. My interview was a presentation, and so when she was hired at Geneva, they decided to employ the same thing and say, you have so many slides, and it was really limited amount of slides. And so Heather, who is always phenomenal at following the rules, like she is the best at following the rules. And she is also really good at finding places. And so Heather, you feel free to chime in and defend yourself if you have to here. But she found this loophole where it said, okay, I need 5 slides. But she figured out a way to use animations and use these different situations where she was able to get about 10 slides worth of information on one slide. And at that point I thought, this is definitely the right girl for this job. She's very smart, and she found a cool loophole, and good for her. So she had a lot of information that she wanted to get through, but it was still on one slide. And I took my hat off to her and said, "Congratulations, you are a master in this." So that always stuck out to me. I love that.
You even remember that, Jason. But no, that was an undertaking. I wanted to make sure that I was following their rules. And so I just had things pop up and then disappear and then pop up and disappear. It was still the same slide.
I thought it was adorable. I was like, that is so well done. I was really impressed by that. So now you all can be like Heather and use the entrance and exit animations for different images and text. So you're still meeting the one slide rule. Anyway, so I just always love that about you, Heather. So thank you for chiming in. All right, so that's animations. Let's talk about transitions. Transitions are a little bit different. They're kind of like animations, but instead of an animation for like one object, a transition is an animation of the whole slide. Okay, so there's different options that you could do. Again, I'm going to call this Keep It Simple Silly Part 2. All right, most transitions, admittedly, most of them are very, very distracting. Okay, very distracting. However, some can be very powerful. Morph is one of those that can be very powerful. And as we learned by watching Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, this is the transition menu. Okay, it's just on the main menu. And then if you look up there where you got your like file, home, insert, design. Okay, and then if you go down to transitions here, Morph is the first one. Okay, there's this one over here, random bars. There's wipe, there's split, there's push. Some of those get really, really distracting. Use those sparingly. And if you're going to use one, maybe use it consistently throughout. But again, I'm not a big fan of those, if I'm being completely honest. But this Morph is really, really cool. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Morph Transition, because this is where PowerPoint presentations can really start to come alive. All right, and I've already used Morph a couple of times in this PowerPoint presentation, and so maybe you noticed it, maybe you noticed some cool movement of things, but basically, Morph Transition is available in Office 365, so if you're using Office 365, it is available to you. Some of the earlier versions of Office, of PowerPoint will not have this, but later versions do, and definitely if you're updating with Office 365, you have that option. It's basically you're animating a smooth movement between slides. Again, this should be used in moderation if used at all, okay? So here's how to morph. So what you do is you create your original slide, and then you copy that original slide, and then on that copy that's right next to it, okay, so in your slide pane, you've got two slides that are identical. You take the second slide, and you start moving the objects around, okay? And then all you do is you go up to your transition menu, and you click Morph on that second slide. And now, basically what that does is it takes the slide, and between the two, it identifies the same objects in both slides, and it moves those objects. So if one object got bigger, then it increases the size of that object to that, and it just has a smooth transition. If you move it from one side of the page to the other side of the page, it will just smoothly move that as you're transitioning from one slide to the next. It's really pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to show you an example that I did for this presentation so that you can see how it works. And so if you're zoomed out and you're just looking in your slide, you know, you're in your edit mode here, not your presentation mode, but you're editing, right? So let's say I don't want to use bullet points anymore because those are kind of boring. And so this right here is an option where if you click on Insert Smart Art, so this is Smart Art, and you can just choose it, and then you basically just enter in the text as Smart Art. So instead of using bullets, I just made, you know, numbers 1, 2, and 3. I ungrouped them from each other and then grouped them back together in each individual one because I wanted them to move independent of one another. So when you import a Smart Art, it's all one object, but you can explode it or ungroup it and then type in your text, do what you want, and then you could do some really cool things with it. So this was my original slide, and then I copied that slide, copied and pasted in my slide view which is on the left-hand side of your screen there, and then this is what it looks like. So you can see my slide boundaries, and what I did is I just moved every element of that off of the page. So if I was looking on my slide you wouldn't see anything. You would just see morph transition. That's all you'd see in my slide. All of the elements, the objects are now gone. They're on different pages. Okay. And so what's cool about that is now it's going to go back. What I did after that was I copied and pasted the original slide again on the second one, clicked my morph transition, and so then I had it go back and forth. Okay, so you can get them to go off the screen, you can get them to come back on the screen. The one that has to go the furthest away goes first, so you can order them on where you want them to go, how you want them to exit. It's a really cool thing if you use it in moderation. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you actually start when you get in presentation mode. So you've got your morph transition here. We're not going to use bullet points anymore. We're going to use this cool smart art. Morphing is cool. Best is to learn by trying. Just go open up your PowerPoint and try it yourself. All right. So when I click to my next slide, so this is the first slide, the original slide. The next one, when I click it, it will go to the copy slide with them moved off of the screen. Okay. And this is what it looks like. So everything leaves the screen. It's kind of cool. Right now, I copied the original slide back. I want them all to come back. So now they all come back together as one. So that's kind of a cool transition. Now, let's say that I want it to be even more dynamic, and I want to focus on this third part here, learn by trying. I went another step, and I did morph again, and I took bullets 1 and 2 off the screen, and I moved the third one up, and I moved morph transition out, and I moved the third one up. So now that is the highlight, and that's what it looks like. So it just kind of moves around. It's kind of a cool little thing that you could do. I'm really kind of into that, into this morph thing. It's really cool when you use it well, but you've got to be really smart on how you use it. Depending on webinars, it's not as efficient because depending on the lag and depending on the internet connection that some people have, it may just look like you're using a disappear and appear animation. So they won't even, it'll be lost on them. But when you're in person, these can be really cool to do. Okay. So now let's go back to our sections here. Let's talk about sections before we do, and this will be pretty quick. I'm going to share a poll here, okay? All right. Have you ever used sections in PowerPoint? Oh, wait. That didn't work. Sorry, hold on. Have you ever used sections in PowerPoint? I'm going to launch that here, okay? So go ahead and answer that question. Okay. Oh, that's good. Most of you are saying no, and I have no idea what that is. Oh, that is really good. That makes me happy because we're going to show you what this is. It's really cool. All right, I'm going to close and share it. Okay. A majority of you say no. Some of you said you've seen it used. All right, and that's awesome. Lastly, I'm going to share. We're going to do one last poll. All right. I'm just curious to see what you think here. Do you find animations and transitions distracting in a presentation? Okay, you voted here. All right, looks like most of you. I'm going to close and share it. So most of you are kind of on the same page with me. I do like that they break up the monotony, but depending on the animation or the transition, it could be really, really distracting, and I do not like that. So I agree. That's it. Some people don't like them at all. That's that I'm fine with that too. I agree. Sometimes, depending on what you're trying to present. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's talk about sections, since most of us don't know what those are. All right, we're going to go into sections. Basically, think of sections as chapters. All right. They're like chapters. If you have 3 different things that you want to talk about, 3 different ideas, or in mine I have 6 that we're going through today, right? I've broken those up into sections, all right? These are very useful for Zooming, and we're going to talk about Zoom last, all right? And then it's really good for managing your presentation and for management purposes to get back if you want to go back to a section or look. It groups them. It groups slides into a section. So if I, for instance, wanted to give a presentation about installation of pipe. Well, I have one section that talks an overview of installation. I would have maybe 3 or 4 slides that are in that overview. And then I'd have one that talks about installing RCP. So I would have an RCP installation section, and they would all be grouped. I'd have maybe 15 or 20 slides there. And then I had flexible pipe installation. And then I have, 15 or 20 slides there. And then I have maybe inspection section where it's, 10 slides on inspecting, and so I can break it into like chapters and then group my slides in there. It's really, really, really cool and very easy to do. So when you want to add a section, all you do is you just right click in the slide selection pane on the left hand side of your screen, and you just click add section. This is what it looks like, remember, on the left hand side where all of your slides are, and you just go in and you right click and you say add selection or add section. You go in there, and this is kind of what it looks like. So when you click on a section, if you notice on this one it says intro, then it highlights all of those sections. What's cool is you can minimize that like they did down here. You've got etiquette, PowerPoint tools, Zoom, sections. You can minimize those sections so you're only focused on one section at a time. If you need to move that section anywhere, you just grab the section heading and you can move all the slides in that section at once. It's really pretty cool. All right, so sections are great. You can add a section, break it up, move a slide from one section to another, however you need to, and it's really cool. And that's what makes it able to do this situation that I'm doing here now that I've showed you with zooming, okay? So Zoom, this is the thing that I've been using this whole time as I go in and out, and I come in and say, okay, these are the 6 things we're talking about. I'm using the zoom function so that I can go in and zoom in there and go from one section to the other, right? This basically replaces agendas. So instead of having a listed agenda, I've just got my Zoom summary page. It's good to reiterate a point so that you can continue to go back and forth on what we've already talked about. And it also has a really great option to redirect. I'll show you that in just a minute on how you can do that, okay? So basically all you do is you go to your insert menu, you go to Zoom menu, and then you have 3 options: summary zoom, section zoom, slide zoom. I'm going to talk in just 2 minutes about each of those, right? And then we'll wrap up here. When I think of a summary zoom, I think of it as a landing page in my presentation. Every time I finish a section, it takes me back to that landing page. You've probably seen it 5 times now in this presentation. So if you notice that, that's what that summary zoom is. It really makes that presentation dynamic, and it makes it a little bit more like Prezi. All right. A typical PowerPoint is very linear, but with the summary zoom, you can be non-linear and bounce around. And where this is valuable is if you're talking to someone and they have a lot of questions about something. Let's say we're talking about installation and they want to know things about inspection. Instead of just going right into installation, when I go to my landing page, I can actually click on the inspection part and I can go to that section next. And so you don't have to present your 50 slides in order anymore. You can bounce from section to section. All right, this is what it looks like when you create a summary zoom. You put insert summary zoom, you go in and choose. It automatically highlights all of your section, the first slide of each section, and you can choose whether I have 9 different sections in this presentation, but I only wanted to highlight 6 of them. And this is what it looked like when I first did it. Okay, it just had it gives you the slide on each one. But if you notice, mine's a little bit different. So I created an image for each one that had the title, layout and design using media animations. And when you right click on there, you can change the image so it displays a little bit differently. It's a really cool option there. Section zoom is an ability to link to a specific section and go back to a previous section easily. It's really cool in showing connections in a presentation from one part of the presentation to the next. So you can do a section zoom where you're zooming and bouncing from one section to the other. All right, and then there's the last one is the slide zoom. This is really good for shorter presentations, and it creates a really good flow. You're able to really get into a topic and really focus on it while staying on the same canvas. I'll give you an example here. All right, and that's that transition there that I hate, the one that comes in. My buddy had that one on there. The bars transition, I hate that one. But anyways, this is one that he did where he's got this whole canvas and he bounces from one to the other. This is the slide zoom. So he's got a big slide and he just zooms from one to the other, right? So this is a lot like that Prezi situation where you can just move on one canvas and shift and rotate from one to the other, right? So you can just talk about different precast things, and then it just bounces from one to the other, and then it goes, and then you zoom back out. So it's all on one, it shows how it's interconnected there, but this is that slide zoom option. So as I mentioned before, now we come back to this. If I were given a presentation and someone had some questions, or I get to the end and someone says, hey, I have some questions about transitions, and you go, yeah, sure. You can come over here and click on transitions and it takes you right back to that section, right? Or you can go back to, you can go and say, you know what, I wanted to, we started with layout and design, but now maybe it makes more sense to go to sections. So after we go, we run through our layout and design, okay, it takes us back to here. Boom, now we want to go to sections. Great, I can just click on sections and it takes me right to sections, okay? And then after sections, maybe now I want to go to using media. So it gives you some really cool options when you're using Zoom, a Zoom summary as your landing page instead of just an agenda. So anyways, that's all that I've got. If anybody has any questions, feel free to enter those in right now. It looks like I just got one. And so I'm going to open my question pane here and say, all right, how do you switch or go out of a section? Same question with Zoom. Yeah, so when you're in a section, there's a couple of different options. You can, it depends on if you're in section Zoom or slide Zoom. Basically, anytime you skip all the way through a section and you go all the way through it, you're able to, then it just automatically goes back to your landing page or your summary Zoom. So that's one way to get through it, to switch from one section to the other. Another way is that you can actually link on each slide. You can have a link on the slides, and that's where that section Zoom comes in, where you can have different parts on every slide, and you can put it in your slide master. This is actually a really cool thing where you can actually just kick from one section to the other at any time during your presentation if you're using that section Zoom. So the best, it's a little bit hard to describe until you get in there and start creating sections and trying with the summary Zoom and the section Zoom and the slide Zoom. But you can navigate back and forth if you're like in a slide Zoom. You can navigate back and forth from one. So if you push the forward arrow, it takes you to the next one. You can always go back, even when you're in the zoom function. It'll let you zoom back and forth in and out of that, and then you usually just will go through it. It automatically goes from one section to the next. So even if you're not using the zoom function and you're just breaking them down into sections for your own benefit, so that you can keep it organized, it just seamlessly goes through one section to the other. There's nothing that you have to exit out or start a new section. It just automatically does it. But if you have the Zoom summary, it'll always go back to that landing page for you. And then you can choose which one you want to go to. So hopefully, Rick, that answered your question there. I would suggest getting in and just trying it, just doing like a sample presentation, making just some dummy slides, create a section, and then kind of experiment with that Zoom summary and your slide Zoom and different things. It's really cool. Also with the Morph thing, that Morph Transition is kind of a fun one. I've been using that a little bit lately. Not as much with my webinars because, like I say, I don't know if they're going to show up well. But it's a really cool way to navigate through. So great question. Don't know if we have any more questions. It sounds like that might be the only one. But I'll stick around for another minute or two. As we're doing that, I'll give see if Heather and Mike, if you guys have anything you wanna say before we depart. Anything, Heather, you want to add or
No, I think you did a really great job. Yeah, I think you basically covered all the advanced things that you can do with PowerPoint, and I think you did well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate. That's always why I ask Heather after my presentation, because she's always so kind and nice. She says, "I think you did a really great job, Jason." So it really boosts my morale and my thing. And then I always end with Blackham, who believes I do a mediocre job. Is that right, Mike? Or do you have anything you want to say?
I'm a little more straightforward for sure.
I
keep questioning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I keep questioning all the slides when you talk about professionalism, but other than that, I think you did really good.
What, you don't think it's professional for me to wear a unicorn onesie? What's not professional about that?
Oh, just teasing. No, it's great. I think the biggest point, like I think you said it, but I would just reiterate, on any of these programs like this, the best thing is just to go try it.
Yeah.
The more you mess around, the more you'll learn.
Mm-hmm. There's also some very good YouTube videos. If that's, I watched one last night on Morph that was really cool. If you watch the same one I do, you will see that my Smart Art Morph slides are like identical to what she did. I just built it myself. It was really fast. It took me about 3 minutes to do that whole, those 4 slides. It was really cool. So pretty easy to do. But yeah, I recommend that you do that. You look into that and do some on your own. But thank you everybody so much for attending. It looks like no more questions or chat or anything, but this will be posted to YouTube. I will be sending out PDHs either tonight or on Monday. But thanks again for joining us for all 10 of these presentations. My contact information is up on the screen right now. If you have any questions, any follow-up, feel free to call me or email me. I'm happy to help you out where I can. If you would like me to come and do any presentations in your office, let me know. We will still be doing probably one webinar per month through Mountain States until the end of the year. So right now, if you've attended all of these presentations, you would have 10 PDHs, and you're about 5 shy of getting enough for the year. With some of the unknowns on conferences in the fall that we typically attend, a lot of us, it's good to get your PDHs early to make sure that you've got enough in case a conference gets canceled or something. So we're hoping that it's been beneficial to you, and we will continue to do about one a month. Through the end of the year. We've really liked how these have worked out and how they've gone, and we've had great numbers, great attendees. I think we averaged about 50 every one of these, and a lot of new, unique visitors every time. So again, thank you so much for everything. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. Have a good one and have a very safe weekend.